Political parties in Cameroon have 14 days to forward their list of candidates to elections Cameroon ahead of Cameroon's municipal and legislative elections bid for the 30th of September 2013. And within the ranks of opposition political parties here in the economic capital Douala, preparations are set to be upbeat. And also in this newscast, residents of Jabane, we are in the Bakassi Peninsula in the southwest region of the country, say the government should hasten the developmental process in that part of Cameroon. And also Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi has denied stepping down, saying that he is the country's legitimate leader. These are major headlines, details and more just in a moment. Thank you, viewers, for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away with some human interest stories. A 5-year-old child is said to have died in Bepanda, here in the economic capital Douala, after he was crushed by a taxi. That was yesterday. The victim, whose name we got as Bobda, reportedly went under a stationed car to retrieve his ball when the driver suddenly started his vehicle. And we hear that the said driver was not aware that the child was beneath the vehicle. And here in the economic capital Douala, we remain in this part of Cameroon to talk about 15 hospitals in the country that have so far received blood safety equipment for their blood banks. The equipment worth some 320 million francs CFA was donated. That was yesterday by the United States President's emergency plans for the fight against HIV and AIDS. For Hansen Chanji tells us more in the following report.
The blood safety equipment, as described by Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Andre Mamafuda, is of good quality and comes at a time when the country is in their need of quality blood banks. The 15th equipment will be distributed to the 10 regional hospitals of the country, with the central region having 5 and the littoral 2.
This 350 million CFA in equipment will provide the regional and central hospitals around the country with the equipment that they need to ensure that blood that's provided to recipients is safe and responds to the real needs that we have identified and developed in partnership with the government of Cameroon.
According to the U.S. Ambassador to Cameroon, Robert P.K. Jackson, the initiative is to support the Cameroonian government in its effort to ensure that blood donated for transfusion is safe and readily available in hospitals that perform transfusion, and to ensure that the percentage of voluntary non-paid donors increases from the current 10% to 50%. Receiving this equipment on behalf of the Cameroon government, Minister Andre Mamafuda said more lives will be saved with the help of the machines, especially those of women who die after giving birth, children and victims of accidents due to blood shortages. The importance of the equipment cannot be overemphasized. At this at a time, the U.S. is implementing its President's emergency plan for AIDS relief activity in Cameroon. It comes at a time when AIDS patients now live on hope, as antiretroviral drugs are as scarce as a dog's tear in the country.
HIV patients in Cameroon living on hope, actually, for Hansen Chanji, an opportunity for our reporters to question the Minister of Public Health, who was here in the economic capital Douala, on the situation of the supply of antiretroviral drugs, which is said to be very scarce in hospitals across the country. Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Andre Mamafuda, told reporters here in the economic capital Douala yesterday that the government, together with its international partners, are mapping ways to boost the supply of the said drugs in hospitals in the country. Without any precision, Mr. Mamafuda simply said that the situation would be redressed in the days ahead. We talk upcoming municipal and legislative elections in the country. Political parties to participate in the upcoming twin elections have 14 days to submit their files of list or their list of candidates to the elections governing body ELECAM. A presidential decree signed yesterday scheduled the twin elections for September 30, 2013. Political parties are now bracing up to organize primaries or either nominate those to represent their various parties or represent them at the divisional levels. Meantime, the Social Democratic Front is almost through with its primaries and now waiting on the National Executive Committee, that is the NEC, to validate results, as well as the CPP is also talking of having or being ready for the upcoming elections. Meantime, the UPC is still in consultation as far as the three factions who are said were bracing up to present a single list or a common list to the elections governing body is concerned. And some of the candidates ruling for the CPDM, that is the ruling party, the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement, say the limited time the party may not be able, for as a result of the limited time, the party might not be able to conduct its primaries. We talk something else. Some 7 soldiers who were awarded epaulets were in the southwest region of the country at the Bill Delta in Jabane, precisely in the Bakassi Peninsula, as proof of hard work and commitment. The ceremony, which took place on Monday, July 1st, across the country, was highly attended by Nigerian as well as Cameroonian authorities. Alimbe-based correspondent Davidson Maimo tells us more in the following report.
Though only 7 in numbers of those who received epaulet at the Bill Delta headquarters at Jabane in the Bakassi Peninsula, the significance cannot be overemphasized, as it is proved to show that this once disputed area is owned and controlled by the Cameroon government. The presence of the Nigerian chiefs, who were part of those who visited their president in Yaoundé at the Gulf of Guinea Security Conference, signified the cordial relationship between Nigerians and Cameroonians living in the peninsula. Among the 7 who received epaulet is Major Commander Alain Thierry Aïssi Olama, whose wife and kids braved the storm to witness the ceremony at Bakassi.
This is very important for us because after the summit of the head of state of the security on the Gulf of Guinea, we are calling all our soldiers, officers, to continue to go ahead to sacrifice even their person for the day of the state, to improve the security in the Bakassi Peninsula, also to participate in the security in the Gulf of Guinea.
Meantime, the population of Jabane will remain in the Bakassi Peninsula have said the presence of the bee is in the area has reassured them of their safety as well as their security. They say the long-time chaos that reigned between the Nigerians and Cameroonians in that part of Cameroon is now a thing of the past. But as Davidson Maimo tells us once again in the following report, the locals are calling on the government to hasten development in that part of Cameroon. His report.
At Jabane in Bakassi, the entire population, both Cameroonians and Nigerians, say life in Bakassi is enjoyable more than ever before because of their security, which is assured by the Bill Delta. A walk into the village by this reporter testify how B element are interacting with the population without any fear. Nevertheless, the people are asking the Cameroon government to speed up the development of the area.
Because everybody here, we are expecting development, employment, job opportunity, skill acquisition that will enable us to have something doing instead of, we are not arguing of whether this place belongs to Cameroon or Nigeria or United Kingdom.
At Jabane in Bakassi, the entire population, both Cameroonians and Nigerians, feast and celebrate as one big family, with the food and drinks provided by the Bill Delta.
And here in the economic capital Douala, an alleged bandit is said to have escaped a mob action at Collège des Travailleurs in the city of Douala. That was this morning. Angry locals are said to have severely battered the suspect after he was found stealing in a house in that part of the city of Douala. The population were about setting the bandit ablaze when it started raining, and his condition remains critical. And a fetus was also discovered early today in the economic capital Douala in a dustbin in Aqua that was in the city of Douala, the famous Rue de la Casse. They already formed, and it was around the famous Rue de la Casse. They already formed a baby of female, or they already formed a baby of female gender, was discovered this morning by passers-by following the heavy downpour that battered the city of Douala in the early hours of this morning. Nothing has so far been heard about the perpetrator or the mother of the baby. As we announced in the headlines, we take you in news out of Cameroon. Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi has turned down the 48 hours ultimatum by the army, and he has called on protesters to respect the rule of law and proposed the establishment of a commitment of a committee of reconciliation as well as a charter of ethics for the media. He has also maintained that he is the legitimate leader of Egypt. As for Hansen Chanji, tells us in the following report.
The speech of Egypt's first Islamist president Tuesday night was like adding more salt to an injury. In the defiant televised speech, Mohamed Morsi said he will give his life to defend constitutional legitimacy and blame the unrest on corruption and remnants of the ousted regime of Hosni Mubarak. And after his speech, analysts said just like his predecessor, he has not been opened to an American cajoling. His opponents on the street and critics in the army argue his dysfunctional government has produced polarization and paralysis. Mohamed Morsi's long statement makes it harder than ever for protesting civilians. His opponents are celebrating as though he has already been forced from office, but he and his Muslim Brotherhood supporters are not ready to tamely accept their fate. Morsi has said he will give his life to see Egypt succeed, and the army said they will shed blood to see him accept the will of the people.
We're not going to go anywhere, and that they really need to rethink their strategies and transition.
The army plans outline for new presidential elections the suspension of the constitution and the dissolution of the parliament. Under this draft plan, Morsi could be replaced by a council of cross-party civilians and technocrats ahead of new elections. With huge demonstrations for and against Morsi, the danger remains that Egypt's crisis could escalate to a second revolution in 2 years. Morsi's supporters have vowed that even if a new president is elected, he will spend less than a month in office. The Egypt unrest now seems to be a fight between two groups, the Muslim Brotherhood being supporters of Mohamed Morsi and the anti-Morsi group.
We remain in Egypt, in the Middle East, to have an update of what is actually taking place. And now Egyptians are still waiting a televised statement on the country's political crisis, as a deadline set by the army for a resolution to the crisis has so far passed. Cheers echoed around Cairo's Tahrir Square, where tens and thousands of protesters are said to have gathered. That was this afternoon. President Mohamed Morsi has reportedly offered a consensus and also refused to step down as demanded by the army. The army has been holding meetings with the political as well as religious leaders of the country to discuss the issue and bring about a solution once and for all. That does it for this edition of the news on Equinox Television. But before we go, we talked about preparations that are upbeat within the ranks of political political parties in the economic capital Douala, as well as in Cameroon as a whole, ahead of the twin elections that will take place on the 30th of September 2013. And also we talked about the demands of the residents of Jabane in the Bakassi Peninsula of the southwest region of the country, who are calling on the government to hasten development in that part of Cameroon. We also took you out of our national boundaries to talk about the chaos that is reigning in Egypt, where Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi has denied to step down, and he maintains that he is the country's legitimate leader. That does it for this edition of the news. We thank you so much for your keen attention. Meantime, have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs. Good evening once again.